guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do a review of Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. So I'm just going to structure this review like I always do, with world building, characters, writing, and plot. And might as well just jump right on in. But first things first. Brief summary, kind of, about what this book is all about. It's a satire on the apocalypse, like the biblical apocalypse. It's just really, really funny. So the way that the book starts in a hospital, and there are, three babies that are born on the same day. One is the Antichrist, one is just a normal baby. And there's all this kinds of like switcheroo shenanigans going on about that kind of adventure, and both sides end up losing track of this baby. And ultimately, one side wants to start both sides want the apocalypse, but there's just a lot of satire stuff thrown in, and it just causes all kinds of crazy chaos. And that's just like the brief summary about what that book is kind of generally about. So let's talk about the plot first. I mean, I've already kind of sort of told you basically what it's all about, but it follows it's split into a bunch of different parts, and so it follows different characters at different points of time. I guess you could say the main characters of the whole thing are Aziraphale and Crowley, and they are an angel and a demon. The angel being Aziraphale, and Crowley being the demon. And I will talk about them in a minute, but just they are literally my everything, okay? And we also have a portion where there's this old witch from way back when, and she has descendants kind of coming down from over time, and she created this book of prophecies, and it's called the Nice and Accurate Prophecies because they tend to come true. They are very, very accurate, and just generally, as I said, they come true, and it freaks people out, and that's why they think she's a bad prophet. But she's just definitely got some very eccentric things, and her descendant is lovely. And the descendant of this other guy is also lovely, and they end up coming together, and it's a fun time. And then we have our Antichrist, who is also funny, just is such an interesting character. I'm kind of intertwining the plot and the characters. It's kind of hard not to talk about them, but as I told you earlier, it's all about the apocalypse and how it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, and how certain people and certain people's threads and storylines tie together in order to make it / not have it happen, kind of a situation. So yeah, that's where we're at on that. Plot is really hard to talk about because it's just so all over the place, and there are so many different pieces at play. Talk about any portion of it would be kind of spoiling it, so it's hard to talk about. So we're just gonna move on, and next up we're gonna talk about the writing. Now, overall, I really liked the writing. The writing was humorous. It was just really well done. You could distinguish, there were accents, and I could just hear them in my head for each character, and I just thought it was so well done. The best prose I've ever read in my life? No, but it was enjoyable nonetheless. And as I said, both Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman's humor just really shone through. It was phenomenal. And the different dialects of the characters was just great. And just, I don't know, I just loved the style. It was so much fun. I mean, while there were some parts that I thought were a bit just, I don't want to call it disjunct, but it didn't flow incredibly well at times, which is part of the reason my enjoyment was a little bit lagging in the middle. In the middle, there was a portion of the story that it just didn't hold my attention as much, but I still really, really enjoyed the style overall. And next up, we'll talk about world building wasn't extremely vast. It took place in a futuristic England in this little town in the country, but it had a lot of interesting historical aspects to it, and I just thought that was really fun and interesting. But also just the world building surrounding the characters and where they were, like, for instance, Aziraphale and Crowley, they had all of these adventures over centuries and centuries, and I'm just like, you guys are killing me. Okay, I'm gonna save my time with them. But just the aspects of showing the world building through the characters was really, really interesting. And now we're going to talk about what I've obviously wanted to talk about this entire review, and that's the characters. I'm going to save my small children for the very end because I have a lot to say about them, obviously. But let's start by talking about, I guess we'll talk about Adam first because he's kind of important too, or Antichrist. I know it's quite ironic that he is named that, but that is just literally the book. But the thing about him is he does not necessarily have the personality of the Antichrist. He is just the reason he wants to end the world slash do things with the world is because of what's happening to it and what human beings are doing to it. And I just really, really loved that aspect. You know, you were expecting this one thing, but you ended up with something completely different. And, you know, his character actually took a little while to grow on me. I kind of liked him at first, and then I went to just kind of being a little annoyed by him, but then I ended up loving him again at the end. So it was just this constant back and forth, which I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just my perception, but I think it's quite ironic that my relationship to that character ended up being that way. I don't know if anyone else has had a similar experience, but feel free to let me know down below. And then some other characters of note who are actually kind of sort of minor. They play a big enough role, but not the biggest role, are characters like Newt and Anathema Device. But they are the two descendants I was talking about earlier. Anathema Device is the descendant of Agnes Nutter, who's the witch that wrote the nice and accurate prophecies that I referenced earlier. And Newt is the descendant of this other guy who I'm totally blanking on the name of right now. But they end up working together. But just as an aside, I am Newt because I too destroy technology. Okay, yeah, just... Have I told you the story about how I went through 7 hard drives in college? Because that's a thing. And then, you know, I broke another computer this past year. So that's what, 11 computers I've been through in my entire life? Because I broke a few prior to that. But besides computers, I've also broken printers and phones. Yay. Just note to self, don't give me your technology unless you want it to come back completely destroyed. Is an adorable, precious human being. And as I said, I relate to him on so many levels. There were, you know, of course, you know, the different creatures of heaven and hell and witch hunters and things, but I didn't necessarily see them as like super duper important, so I feel like it's not extremely important to talk about them. But characters, I guess you could say, are the Four Horsemen. Yeah, the Four Horsemen portrayal in this book was hilarious, and I loved it. And it was just really good. So we had pollution, death, war, and famine. And I just thought that that their role was really interesting. And of course, death is my favorite because, if you've read any other Terry Pratchett books, you know that death is a major character over in the Discworld series. Well, Terry Pratchett kind of lifted him and put him into this too, and just, I loved the cameo. I really, really enjoy Death as a character. I haven't read much of the Discworld. In fact, at this point in time, I've only read 1 book. But I know quite a bit about Death because, I have really good friends in college that are major, major, major Terry Pratchett fans. And, so I know a lot about Death, and he's just such a fascinating and funny character. And he was no less so in this book. So I thought their portrayal was also really interesting. And now, last but not least, I'm going to talk about my 2 small children, Aziraphale and Crowley. Their friendship, relationship thing was absolutely everything. If you follow me on Twitter, you would know how much I adore them. Like, just their ship name is literally the Ineffable Husbands, and just, it's perfect. Okay, it's perfect. Really talking about them each separately, because you obviously know that I ship them. Huh, because it's me. Hi. But let's talk briefly about Aziraphale first. So Aziraphale is an angel from heaven, and he is kind of just a lower down angel who is kind of been sent to be a messenger angel, if you want to call him that. He's been on Earth for quite some time, and he just, constantly reports back to heaven as to how things are going. But his mission this time is to find the Antichrist and kind of keep his eye on him to make sure that things are going according to heaven's plan. Crowley, on the other hand, is basically the exact same thing for Hellside. And just that dynamic, because of how long they've been on Earth, despite being from these respective places, they become quite human. And they've interacted a lot with each other. Aziraphale and Crowley have interacted a lot with each other, and they've become quite close friends and actually just tolerate each other really well, despite constantly saying, oh, you're tolerable for being an angel or a demon or whatever. I'm like, buddy, that's your closest friend and confidant. Like, there was one point, and if you saw on Twitter, I screamed about it. So as not to spoil you, I'm just going to say, if you read it, you know which tweet I'm talking about. And I'm still not over that exactly. So, yeah, their relationship is a lot more than meets the eye. But anyway, this is a mess. Aziraphale is also me because he collects antique books and just books in general. He owns, I think he owns a bookshop, and I'm just like, my small precious child, like, you are literally me. Okay, cool, glad we had that little chat. He's terrible with technology and just life things, and I'm like, same dude. But I'm also a lot like Crowley because, hi, I adore Queen, and whenever he's in his vintage car, he puts on his cassette tape because, hi, cassette tapes, that's a wild time. And it's always playing Queen. And I'm just like, yes, I approve of this. And he's also just a snarky, sassy little demon. And I love him because I too can be snarky and sassy once you get to know me. Just their dynamic is wonderful and lovely, and I could just make an entire video talking about them and their relationship and spoiling just everything about them in the book, because they were the two characters that captivated me right from the very beginning. I just lived for them and their interactions, and I'm just like, yes. Ending for them just warmed my heart. Okay, just love them. Love them. And I can't wait for the show that's coming in 2019 because, yes, please. Please give it to me. Yes. I really think the casting that they did, particularly for Aziraphale and Crowley, is just going to be perfect. Yes. Just David Tennant as Crowley is perfect. And Charlie Sheen is Aziraphale, and that'll just be really interesting. I'm just excited, obviously. Like, this might surprise some people because I've liked a lot of other books that I've read the last couple of months, but honestly, this book was exactly what I needed after the last several months. I just needed this funny, entertaining, captivating, for the most part, characters. And I could say with ease that this was probably the best book that I've read in months. Like, well, I loved, for instance, Persuasion. I loved it for a very, very different reason. Just, I don't know. I'm all over the place, obviously. But anyway, It's about time I think I wrap this review up. So as always, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media. I have a Twitter and a Goodreads, which are both linked down below. And please come talk to me about this book if you've read it, whether it's in the comments or whether it's on Twitter or some other social media forum if you'd like. But other than that, I'll just come back with another video for you guys again soon. Okay, bye!